The story of climate change during the past 600 years. In the course of the past century, the Earth's average temperature has risen by 0.74 degrees. Variations in the Earth's temperature are not unusual, but what caused the changes in the Earth's climate during the different time periods? And why has climate change given rise to serious concerns during the past 100 years? This is the story of the impact of the sun, volcanoes, and humans on the climate during the past 600 years. Our story starts at the end of the Middle Ages. This is a warm era in northern Europe. Sea ice and glaciers retreat, and the Vikings settle as far north as Greenland. The spring of 1315 sees the beginning of a period of very heavy precipitation that lasts for 7 years. The rains mark the beginning of the Little Ice Age, a period that lasts for 600 years and which is characterized by a series of swift climatic changes. The map shows a simulation of the temperature anomalies that have occurred on Earth from the 1400s right up to the present day. The colors, ranging from yellow to red, indicate high temperatures, and the blue shades indicate low temperatures. On the graph, you can follow the changes in global temperatures over time. We will now take a look at some examples of what causes these changes. The year is 1453. Below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, the volcano Kauai is threatening to erupt. The ensuing eruption, equivalent to 2 million Hiroshima bombs, splits the island of Kauai in two. The effects of the eruption are widespread. Dense clouds of volcanic ash cover the city of Constantinople. The skies turn red at sundown, giving off a peculiar glow above the city besieged by the Turks. A few days later, the Turks conquer Constantinople and rename the city Istanbul, thus marking the fall of the Byzantine Empire. Could it be that the ash clouds played a part in the outcome of the war? The violent eruption of Kauai also has a significant effect on the Earth's temperature, which falls by half a degree in the years following the eruption. It snows for 40 days in the region south of the Yangtze River in China in the early part of 1454, and countless perish from starvation and cold. Throughout the 1600s, a series of volcanic eruptions occur in tropical regions. The intensity of solar radiation is weaker than it has been for several centuries. In Norway, this change gives rise to cooler summers and wetter winters, conditions which accelerate the advance of glaciers in western Norway. Clues can be found in ancient letters. This glacier is, to be more precise, a frightfully high iceberg. When at given times it shoots forth and spews from its chasm vast amounts of soil, gravel and stone, far greater than any house, which it then crushes into grains of sand. Ice slides, mountain slides, and rivers changing course destroy crops and grazing land in the valleys surrounding the Jostedalsbreen glacier. In desperation, the farmers living in the inner Nordfjord area write to the king in Copenhagen pleading for tax relief. Almighty King, most gracious monarch, we, your royal majesty's poor, wretched, most humble tax-paying farmers of Nordfjord. During heavy rains in 1743, ice blocks break off the Brendalsbreen glacier and kill 7 people on Tungøyene farm. In April 1815, Tambora volcano in Indonesia erupts. This is the biggest eruption known in the history of mankind. A column of fire and ash rises 44 kilometers into the atmosphere. Whirlwinds spread incredible amounts of dust, ash, and stone. Approximately 90,000 people die as a direct result of the eruption or due to the famine and disease that follow in its wake. The violent volcanic eruption in Asia results in record low temperatures in Central Europe and North America. 1816 goes down in history as the year without a summer. The consequences for crops and livestock are catastrophic. The Swiss Alps experience continuous snowfall throughout the entire summer. More than 200,000 are estimated to have died from starvation in Europe. The Little Ice Age lasts until approximately 1920. Towards the end of this period, European countries, Norway included, experience mass immigration to America. The reasons for this development are complex, though the worsening climate was probably one of the reasons why so many were tempted to seek out more favourable living conditions. In the early part of the 1900s, large parts of the Northern Hemisphere experienced long periods of rising temperatures. The Midwestern United States experiences droughts and sandstorms during the Great Depression in the 1930s. The reason for the warmer climate is probably complex. Warm ocean currents in the North Atlantic, fewer major volcanic eruptions, and increased solar activity. During the past century, the Earth's average temperature has risen by 0.74 degrees. Unlike previous periods of warm temperatures, today's warming is global in nature, and it is happening almost everywhere. Researchers can find only one probable cause: the increase in the amount of emissions of the greenhouse gas CO2. Study the figure. It shows global temperature anomalies from 1400 through to 2000. The blue curve shows simulated anomalies based on natural climate-forcing agents such as solar radiation and volcanic eruptions. The red curve shows simulated temperature anomalies based on both natural and man-made forcing agents over the past 150 years. The black curve shows actual temperature anomalies based on measurements. It shows that the temperature has risen during the past century despite the fact that the natural variations indicate that we should have experienced a slight cooling, as denoted by the blue curve. It is only when we include the CO2 emissions from coal, oil, and gas that the climate models can reproduce the climate which we have actually observed over the past 50 years, denoted here by the red curve. The sun and volcanoes have had an important impact on climate throughout history. Since the 1850s, in the wake of the Industrial Revolution, humans have had an increasingly significant impact on the climate due to large amounts of the greenhouse gas CO2. By studying the climate of the past, researchers have found scientific evidence that today's climate is primarily man-made.